That is Jackson Memorial Jazz Band under the direction of Jason Diaz. Amazing talent. Woohoo!
I think we should start every Board of Ed meeting off with the jazz band, because that was awesome. Call the meeting to order. Please rise, salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law and has been duly advertised in the newspaper as an official meeting. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella.
Present.
Mr. McCarron.
Present.
Mrs. Barocas. Dr. Osmond.
Present.
Mrs. Rivera.
Present.
Mrs. Cass.
Present.
Mr. Palmieri.
Present. I need a motion for approval of the agenda with addendums.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella.
Yes.
Mr. McCarron.
Yes.
Dr. Osmond.
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera.
Yes.
Mrs. Cass.
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. Before turning over to the superintendent's report, I'd like to just welcome Assemblyman Sawicki. Thank you for coming out this evening and showing your support. At this time, I will now turn the meeting over to Ms. Permilli for her superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Palmieri, and good evening, everyone. Amazing. Again, I just want to say thank you to the Memorial Jazz Band. They were here rehearsing, and they said, you know what, why don't we just stay a little bit longer and play for the first few minutes as people are walking into the board meeting, and that was just a great way to start tonight. We all know just our incredible music programs we have here in all of our schools. Just amazing. I'm floored at what they just played. Amazing. So thank you to them and to Mr. Diaz. So tradition has it that every board meeting we start with our high school board reps, and tonight is their last report, sadly. They've been with us all year. This is the last board meeting for them, as the June board meeting happens after school has let out. So I just wanted to take a minute to thank them before they speak tonight and give their last report. They've done a wonderful job at sharing all of the amazing events and activities that happen on a daily basis in our high schools. We certainly will miss you. You've done an incredible job, but we are just so proud of you and excited for your next journey in life. We know you're going to lead and do wonderful things in your next steps in life, and certainly this won't be the last time we get a chance to say congratulations, because we'll see you at graduation. But you've done a wonderful job, and your nameplates are yours to take home this evening as a little memory of being a board rep. So thank you for everything. You've done a great job. And tonight we'll start with Liberty and Jose at the podium.
Good evening, Superintendent Pornili, Board of Education members, and guests. Thank you for having me here. I am honored to share with you a little bit about what the students and staff of Jackson Liberty have been up to since our last meeting. This month was even more successful than last, with many opportunities and activities taking place. Our psychology classes are working hard as they are creating beautiful scenery at the bus ramp with mental health awareness messages to all of our students. Happy living is not limited to people. The Liberty Lighthouse Club is collecting supplies for a local animal shelter, the Associated Humane Society in Tinton Falls. Last year's drive was a huge success, and they were so appreciative of all the donations. We look forward to contributing even more this year. The end is near for our seniors, and they are starting to send their college's decisions, and our staff is displaying their banners in the main hallway so that everyone can see them standing out. Speaking of standing out, congratulations to our seniors of the month, Olivia Smith and Harrison Orton. In addition, our athletes of the month are Elijah Elias of volleyball and Emily Tabasca of the softball team. Elijah Elias earned his 1,000th career against Egg Harbor High School. Finally, Mrs. Brianna Sosian was named Lions Staff Member of the Month for all her hard work and support towards the students. Our sports teams are on a roll and are willing to keep it going. Congrats to our softball team on winning 10-3 against Manchester. A big shout out to freshman lacrosse goalie Angie Giordano on her 100th save. Our boys ball team celebrated their senior day with a 12-5 win over Lacey. The seniors did a great job leading their team to victory. The lacrosse team is having an amazing season. They defeated Marlboro last week 9-5, and our very own Paul Capuzzi got his 300th career point and 100 career assist. Matt LaBianca got his 600th career save. Peter LaBianca earned the Defensive Player of the Week honors by the Shore Savages. Yesterday at Eagle Ridge, the golf team played well and defeated Manchester 178-195. The last match of the season is tomorrow versus Pinelands at LBI National Golf Course. Moreover, the girls' track team had a great day at the Ocean County Championship. Delaney Spalpup got second in the 800-meter. Alida Torres, Brianna Cassis, Delaney Spalpup, and Makaya Albi placed second in the 400-meter relay. Delaney Spalpup broke her school record in the 800-meter. Finally, our boys' volleyball team defeated CBA this past week and are going to play Freehold Border today in the second round of the Short Conference Tournament. Good luck, boys. This month, we had Teacher Appreciation Week. The Yellow HS PTSN put a motivational sign outside of the South parking lot to greet them as they enter the school. The Jackson Liberty Band had a clothing drive fundraiser this past weekend to collect items for their organization. The Internet Club had a bake sale this past week. Additionally, the girls' soccer team had multiple fundraisers, such as saying ice pops and more. The treats help make the day better. Days always seem to be good for our jazz band. They recently won another competition to keep the streak alive. Their excellence is always celebrated, and we are so proud of all what they do. The band is also hosting their popular music in the park, where schools from the tri-state area come to compete. It is a phenomenal event. The dance team had a great competition this past weekend as they earned the Studio and Investment Award, the Powerful Performance Award, and the Creepy and Creative Award. Great job, girls. Even though Mother's Day was this Sunday, I want to thank all of our mothers across Jackson for all the hard work you do and for your support. You really do make a difference. As always, I would like to thank all of you for your continued support of Liberty and all the schools in town. This will be my last meeting with all of you as I will be going off to college. Thank you for giving me this special place to speak on behalf of Jackson Liberty and for your much appreciated time throughout the years. We'll continue to make the best of each day we are given. I wish you all the best. Have a good night.
As always, informative and an excellent report. So next up is Jamil for his last report about Memorial.
Good evening, Mrs. Pormili, members of the Central Administration staff, and Board of Education members. Thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight on behalf of Jackson Memorial High School. We are almost done with the year, so allow me to inform you on all the important news occurring. On May 1st, motivational speaker Gabe Hurley came to spread his story and explain how important good decision-making is to juniors and seniors. He is a great musician, inspiring speaker, and he really set an example on how to make good decisions. Junior Formal was a huge success. Even though the day was rainy, everyone had a great time. Everyone was dressed nice, the food was amazing, and the scenery at Jumping Brook was spectacular. The Air Force JROTC had their annual awards ceremony last night on the 13th. Awards were given away, including national awards and scholarships. The unit itself was awarded Distinguished Unit Award for passing inspection by an Air Force representative. The senior elementary school walk will be held on May 28th, and I personally will be visiting Switlick. On May 30th, there will be a big event held at the school. It is called History on Wheels, where each generation of cars will be parked in the parking lot for students and staff to enjoy. The generation of cars will start from the 1920s up. On June 5th, Scholarship Night will be held for Liberty and Memorial in this auditorium. Students who qualify will be awarded for strong dedication and effort that they put in these last 4 years. On June 5th, Athletic Signing Day will be held as well, including all divisions, D1, D2, and D3. Senior yearbooks will also be sold that day as well. There will be an awareness assembly on June 6th for good decision-making and positive thinking going into the last couple of weeks of school. June 7th will be the highly anticipated senior prom. It will be held at Southgate Manor and will be Cinderella themed. On June 9th and June 10th, there will be an award night for students' academic achievements. The first one will be on the 9th, held for freshmen and sophomores, and the second one will be held on the 10th for juniors and seniors. Students that qualify are students that maintained a 4.0 GPA for the entire school year. There will be special senior awards awarded to seniors who achieved a 4.0 GPA their entire 4 years attending Jackson Memorial High School. Final exams for seniors will be on the 13th and 14th, and senior graduation will be on the 18th of June, starting at 2:30 p.m. I would personally, this one is from the heart a little bit. I just want to thank all teachers and all coaches who have helped me become the person who I am today. I don't think I would be the same person if I never attended Jackson Memorial High School, and I think that attending here really helped. It really helped me find my path. I really didn't have my path, but it helped me find my path, and I'd like to thank all of you. I would like to thank Mrs. Pormilli and the Board of Education for your continued support, and thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. Thank you for the fun and entertaining year, and thank you for allowing me to speak at this meeting for the last time. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of Jackson Memorial High School. Have a good night.
Always so sad that it's the last meeting for them. They've just done an incredible job all year, and I'm so super proud of them and their next steps. So thank you again, and I'll see you at graduation. Okay. So moving on with my superintendent's report this evening, I did want to provide the board with an update related to our budget situation, both the current budget, the 23-24, and the 24-25. So in my report, I do have just a couple of slides, so if the board would like to turn around and take a look at those slides, I am just going to sit on my seat as just a few slides, just to provide an update to the board and the public. So the purpose of tonight's, well, let me start with the quote that I ended with actually last week, just to reemphasize obviously how the community, the board, our staff all feel about students, and that there is nothing more important, right, than the education of our students here in Jackson School District, and that continues to be our focus. Again, the quote speaks for itself. The purpose of tonight's update is to review the status of the 23-24 loan request or a state aid advancement request, to also explain where we stand with the 24-25 budget process, and I wanted to also inform the community and the board this evening that we were informed in writing this afternoon that we may not have a budget hearing tonight, and we may not vote or approve or not approve, or vote, the board may not vote, because we still have an unbalanced 24-25 budget. Therefore, we cannot vote on anything. And then I also wanted to update the community and the board on the possible impact of legislation that was actually passed yesterday and then signed today by the governor. So the 23-24 current status, as I presented last week to the board, that we were permitted to apply $4.4 million into that budget, which lowered the loan request down. And so that all went through. That approval was last week. The current status of the request, the state monitor, Ms. Morris, has recommended that the Jackson School District receive advanced state aid in the amount of $7.3 million to support our 23-24 budget. So that recommendation has been made. We are now awaiting the Commissioner of Education to make the final determination on her recommendation. And as always, we will keep the board and the community and our staff informed. And as always, we are cooperating and answering any additional questions we may receive from the Department of Education. So that's where we stand for the 23-24 budget, with that budget closing June 30th. So you can imagine how difficult it has been all year waiting to hear what we were going to be able to get supported with. So moving on to the current status of the 24-25 budget, as you heard me just say, we can't approve anything. We still have an unbalanced budget. As we presented last week, we did apply and did make some fiscally difficult decisions, but we did reduce the deficit to about $26 million by making about $4.2 million in cuts. And we cannot cut any further without sacrificing a safe, thorough, and efficient education for our students. So we have stopped there, and we're still at the unbalanced mark of $26 million. Again, we continue to work with our fiscal monitor, the county office, and the Department of Ed. Just as a reminder, the next slide just shows what could those devastating cuts look like should we not get assistance from the Department of Education. If we're forced, if the state makes cuts, some of these are the big things that the state would have to look at. I did add into these slides this evening that if we resulted in closing schools, unfortunately, that would drive our class sizes up so far it would be unsafe that we would have to then not accept the preschool money that we receive, and we would not be able to have 550 preschoolers with us because we would need those spaces for our K through 5 students in our elementary schools. So again, it's just a horrific situation if you look at making those types of cuts to close that kind of gap. So new, as I just mentioned this evening, yesterday the bill was passed through the Senate and Assembly and was sitting on the governor's desk. A few of these bills are listed here, and it was signed late this afternoon, we understand, by the governor. And as I walked into this meeting tonight, I saw a broadcast from our Department of Ed that outlines some guidance on how we are to approach the legislation. Obviously, we have not had time to review that or go into the details of it. But what we do know is that the way that the bill was approved, that certain districts losing state aid may have additional time to submit their budgets. So we will look at that broadcast and see what that timeline is. It does restore a certain portion of the state school aid reductions that we were cut at, and it also does allow for to exceed that 2% cap that we have talked about year after year. And so what that means for Jackson is instead of a $4.4 million aid cut, we would receive a $2.4 million aid cut. And that the district may also submit a budget that goes beyond the 2% tax at a max of 9.9%. That would be the max, which would bring an additional $10 million to our tax levy, which then reduces that deficit of the $26 million to approximately $17 million. So even raising above the 2% still will not close the gap that we will still have in our budget. So it does not solve the problem. We will still need direction from the county and the state as what to do with that $17 million cut, or deficit, I should say. So moving forward, we will consider everything and look at our broadcast. We will Obviously, keep our community informed and the board informed as to the next steps. We will work to continue with the monitor and the county and the state to seek solutions. And we will keep everybody informed, but I'm sure we will be at this again with another board meeting, presenting where we stand and where we're headed. I think we have been very transparent, kept everybody informed, and we will continue to do so. It's moment by moment changes. It's difficult to work in that scenario, but nevertheless, we are in this for students, and we will continue upon that path for what is in the best interest of our students here in Jackson. So I'm just going to pause there for a moment for the board before I continue my superintendent's report to see if you have any questions on the update.
I do.
Yes.
So is there a deadline that the commissioner has to even approve the 23-24 budget? Did he give a deadline considering?
Considering it's almost
Yeah.
over? Yeah. I would assume that that would be decided soon, but I do not have a timeline for a decision. All I know is that it has been moved to the next step. Ms. Morris's recommendation was moved to the next step. We're continually answering questions. This morning, we spent all morning answering additional questions, and we're hopeful that that has now gone to the commissioner for final approval. So I do not have a finalized deadline from them, no.
Okay. I have another question. So obviously you said the legislation, they just sent an email for you to digest, what it's like. But, do we feel, regardless, even if we raised our tax levy to the max, we're still going to have a deficit. But do you feel that the state is going to come to us and say, hey, you have to do this in order to, receive that state aid that you still need?
So there's been no direction on that, but if I were making an assumption, I would assume that there would not be any additional assistance to this district unless we availed ourselves of all possible revenue to come into the district.
Do you find it interesting, and this might not be, you could tell me that you won't answer it, but like in Nutley, they had an issue, and they found that there was fiscal irresponsibility, and they got state aid advance within weeks. So, here we are for 2 years. So maybe that's just a comment.
I can't
Maybe
explain
I'm just
that.
commenting.
Yeah, it is a comment. Yeah, I can't explain that, but obviously that is difficult to hear. Yes.
If I could just say, so for a year, we have been discussing with the Department of Education, and I know your administration has been in constant contact with the Department of Education, providing them numerous documents, sometimes multiple times the same document, because they keep requesting the same information. And we're just a couple of weeks away from ending the 23-24 school budget year, and we're still waiting for the $7 million at this point that we're going to need to close out that budget. Why, and I'm not sure if you know the answer or Ms. Morris, but why is the Department of Education dragging their feet when it comes to this very important topic of our budget?
Obviously, I wouldn't know, other than I believe that they want to make sure that the absolute dollar amount that they provide is absolutely what we need. And as you know, with a budget, when you're estimating all year long what your cash flow will be, they're all estimates until the actual bills come in. So it's really a month by month determining now's the actual. Now we can look at the actual, now what is that gap at? So it really does, there's a difference between estimating and the actual. So that's an assumption on my part, is that's what's delaying this process. Ms. Morris, did you want to, am I spot on with that? That's pretty much the rationale, right?
I think it was somewhat delayed because we did have, during that period of time, the appointment of a new commissioner, and several of the top financial people are new, and I think that slowed the process down more than it would have. That was around when, I think November, December, somewhere in there. that there were key positions that changed.
So the questions that they're asking is just to find out the actual number that we're needing. It's not because they're questioning to find an error within our books so that we could get the state aid advance quicker.
I mean, I can't make assumptions of why they're asking questions. We are just, any questions we're being asked, we are answering.
I have a question. I'm just not sure if it's for you or Ms. Morris, so whoever wants to take it. But I'm just curious, we learned in the last meeting that we had last week that Lakewood created a budget with a loan that they apparently don't have yet. Were they able to vote on that?
My understanding is that they were not able to vote on it.
Okay, and my second question is, so even if we vote to up the taxes to almost 10%, like you said, where it's not, we're still going to be millions and millions of dollars away to where we need to be. So if we vote that down, I think this question is for you, Ms. Morris, if we vote that down because we don't want to raise taxes close to 10%, because the state poorly allocated where our already paid taxes went, do you have the authority to veto that over the board?
I believe so. There is other, evidently, a decision there may even be one in the court, I don't know. But if you read, again, the authority that the monitor has in 18A, you get an outline, and I'm sorry, because last time I was reminded tonight that I was going to make copies of that for you, and I will. But that's not the next step. The next step is that it would go to the county office, and the county superintendent of schools and county business administrator would be the next step after your board with either to approve it or not approve it.
I have a quick question, Mrs. Morris. Have you ever worked for a district where the DOE waited until the very last minute to give the money that, in a sense, like we had an agreement, or we gave our budget, so this isn't new numbers or new information. Yes, it's coming down to the actual, but we're also down to weeks before our final payroll for the year. Have they ever done this late before?
I don't know the answer to that, whether they have or haven't. I'm not certain of that.
I have a question. Do we know per household what that tax implication would be, broken down if we were to raise the tax levy, what that would come to?
We do. I'll ask Mr. Baginski to respond. We have been in advance knowing this bill might pass. Yeah.
So on the average assessed house in Jackson, which is $332,000, it would be a $166 increase if you took it to the max.
What was the
$332,000. That would be the assessed value of the average house in Jackson.
Okay. Any other questions before I move on? All right, thank you. I just want to remind the board that tonight on the agenda there is a motion to approve the HIB self-assessment scores from the 22-23 school year. If you recall, Mr. Maluski goes over those self-assessment scores when we submit them. So he went over those scores with you in July, and it takes almost a year for the Department of Ed to send them back to us for approval. So they've all been approved. We've posted them on the district website. So I just wanted you to know that's why it's back on there, because we just received them back from the Department of Ed. Okay. All right. So let's move on to some positive things, shall we? The things happening in our district. It's a busy time of the year. I can't believe that we're wrapping things up. It's mid-May, and it's just an incredibly busy time of the year. We do have some state testing going on right now. We have so many activities and events. We have chorus concerts, art tech expos, the proms, academic awards happening, scholarship night, moving up ceremonies for our 5th grade students, promotion ceremonies for our 8th grade students, and then there's graduation for our seniors on Tuesday, June 18th, not too far away. Just incredibly wonderful events, and we're keeping our fingers crossed for our seniors that the weather is beautiful and wonderful, and we fit it all outside for everybody. So people, keep your fingers crossed. Just an exciting time for our students, and I'm really looking forward to attending some of those events and seeing our families and our staff. I also do want to say Teacher Appreciation Week, we really wrapped that in last week with all of our staff, not just our teachers. It takes all of us. We are just so incredibly thankful for the staff here who have been keeping everything going in a positive direction for our students, even though we're dealing with this budget crisis. And so our entire staff comes together to work for the benefit of our students, and I just want to thank them. It's not easy, and you know, we have more and more challenges. We're doing more and more with less, and I just want to heartfully thank the entire staff, including the administrative team. So thank you for that. There's a couple of slides Ms. Irwin put together behind me this evening as well. I just want to point out that a thank you to our mayor and the council and the Jackson Education Foundation for partnering with the Township Department and dedicated residents who are making donations to help us revitalize our field house here at Memorial. It's an old building and it needs a lot of support, and we're really working together to try and get some donations and community help to update those things. And we're having an open house this Sunday at the field house for people to come see who are interested in making donations fiscally or through services. And that's from 10:30 to 1 o'clock here at Jackson Memorial on Sunday. So hopefully we'll see some of you there to help us with that, and we really appreciate the teamwork on that. I also wanted to just point out and say congratulations to the Ocean County Superintendent Scholarship Award winners. We host that through my association, and I'm really excited to see them next week at the breakfast and their families. They've earned those scholarships, and we're super proud of them. And again, I want to thank our staff who has been coming together to write letters, write emails, and make phone calls to the Department of Education, the governor's office, to help educate them on what's happening here in Jackson. And you can see some pictures behind me that this is a team effort. So I'm really super proud of everybody and thankful. And just as a reminder, we have some summer camps that are running this summer. They're up on our website. If you're looking for something for your students to do, you see some of the wonderful things that we do here. The summer camps really do offer a lot for our students in those types of areas. And just a reminder, we have a Facebook page, so please follow us. That is new this year, and we keep everything updated there. And it's an easy, quick way to get some information about the district. So with that, I am going to conclude my superintendent's report this evening. Mr. Palmieri.
Thank you, Ms. Permilli. At this point, we will go through our standing committee reports. This is just committees that met from the previous board meeting, which was just last week, so it's not a lot. We have Buildings and Grounds. Chairperson, Mr. McCarron, please report.
Yes, the capital improvement projects that were completed for the district. Liberty, there was new bearing assembly installed in C. Kitchen for the HVAC unit. Johnson had room 301, new thermostatic expansion valve installed for the HVAC unit. Johnson had new HVAC compressor installed in the principal's office. Holman, the kitchen grease trap lid was repaired as per the health inspector. Memorial Stadium bleachers are now equipped with new outlets and receptacles for upcoming events and graduations. Getz water tank project, tentative start date will be June 19th. And Holman Elementary School gym HVAC project update. Due to equipment and delivery issues, this project has been tentatively postponed until September 2024.
Thank you, Mr. McCarron. We also have scholarship chaired by Ms. Cass.
Is June 5th, and that will be held here at Memorial High School that evening. It'll be both schools, Liberty and Memorial, together.
Thank you, Ms. Cass. I need a motion for approval of policy second reading.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella,
Yes.
Mr. McCarron,
Yes.
Dr. Osmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. I need a motion for approval of the minutes, the closed session meeting, April 24th, 2024, and the official board meeting, April 24th, 2024, business meeting.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella,
Yes.
Mr. McCarron,
Yes.
Dr. Osmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera, Mrs. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. I need a motion for approval of the bill list.
Motion.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella,
Yes.
Mr. McCarron,
Yes.
Dr. Osmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. I need a motion for approval of treasurers and board secretaries' reports.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella,
Yes.
Mr. McCarron,
Yes.
Dr. Osmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. Before I open public forum on agenda items only, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our attorney, Mr. Zittimer.
Okay, we have two student resolutions to add to the agenda. This will be item number 6. Resolved that the board reverses the finding of reverses the finding of unconfirmed HIB in case number 261860 JLH 0307 2024 presented by the board's HIB committee during this evening's closed session, and be it further resolved that the parent should be provided with a written decision along with information on the right of appeal. And this will be resolution number 7. Students, resolved that the board affirms the finding of unconfirmed HIB in case number 263771 JLH 0411 2024 presented to the Board of Education during this evening's executive session by the board's HIB committee, and be it further resolved that the parent should be provided with a written decision explaining the basis for the findings along with information on the right of appeal.
Thank you. I need a motion to open public forum on agenda items only. We will hold another public forum during this meeting for other questions. This public forum will be for questions on the agenda only.
Motion.
Please sign in and state your name and whether or not you are a Jackson resident. Each person is allowed a maximum of 5 minutes to speak. No person may speak more than once on all topics until all others have been heard. I would actually like to provide Assemblyman Sawicki with the podium if you'd like, sir, to present to this board. Thank you.
Good evening. Mr. President, thank you for having me again tonight, board members, superintendent, business administrator. Appreciate you having me back tonight. Really wanted to be here more to support all of you. One proud dad moment before we start. 2 of my kids were on stage tonight in the jazz band, so I was really happy to see that. You know, it's just one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about what we're doing here tonight. You know, it's not just the position I'm in, but the position of being a father, as well as some of you probably heard last week. I'm also a proud member of the class of '89 from Memorial too, so have some roots here. I wanted to at least give you a little bit of an update from where I sit. Obviously, the superintendent has some really good information and you know, probably as close to the minute as possible. I'll talk about the 2 bills that you mentioned. A4161, I was a co-sponsor of and lobbied hard for that one. Was disappointed, as I'm sure you know. It initially was supposed to have about $71 million, and it representing about 2/3 of what was cut. And the Senate, I don't know how else to say it, in their infinite wisdom, decided to lower it to 45%. So Jackson probably lost out around $800,000 is what I'm guessing on that. I don't know the logic behind that. It came back to us yesterday. We actually had a vote in Trenton yesterday on that bill. It passed. Again, I stood on the floor in the assembly and talked about how it does not solve the problem. Even if you do go down the path of using the property tax component of it. I explained to all the members of the Assembly that you're still coming up close to $20 million shy, and we need to do something now. There's a lot of talk about the fact that the current funding formula, the one that failed everybody that you're wearing, S2, but what I'm trying to get across to the rest of the legislature is we don't have time for that. Like I don't think there's disagreement that this funding formula is a disaster. I think they knew that last year, the year before, and the year before that. And frankly, in any one of those years, it could have been fixed. I don't consider myself very political. I work across the aisle. I've had very good success working across the aisle in terms of getting bills signed into law. But there's control in both houses. Both houses could have fixed this years ago, all right? Because I keep hearing a lot of questions. Why are they doing this, right? Why is there a delay? It's been a delay. This is the last of the delays. It's been a string of delays. And in the end, it's hurting school children. I mean, that's what it's coming down to. I am lobbying hard for more legislation. I'm glad to see that 4059 passed yesterday as well, and the governor signed it. That delays the date, I believe, to 5 days after the state budget. I think somebody asked that question. I tried reading it in the statement while I was sitting here, but for what I've heard, it's 5 days after the state budget. So it buys a little time. Now, that may not seem great because, hey, well, what are we going to do between now and then? For me personally, it buys us time for legislation. All right, so we have a process that includes committee meetings. They have to be moved out of committee. They have to go to a floor for a vote. There's only so many of those. In fact, the one yesterday wasn't even scheduled until last Tuesday or Wednesday. And that it was because things had to get passed, and which includes, I think, 4161 in particular. I have a bill, 4294. I think somebody asked about the loan bill. That is the loan bill. That is to make an administrative change and to stop arguing with the DOE and splitting hairs on what's a loan. It defines it as a loan. It allows you to apply for the loan before finalizing your budget. And it allows a loan to be a line item within the budget. And to be clear, I know nobody up here wants to take a loan, and I know nobody out here wants to hear that your school district is taking a loan. I don't think anybody wants that. But it is another tool, given the situation that we're all in here, and I'm trying to enable that tool for you to do it the right way. I mean, the fact that you have to wait until after you submit your budget to submit the loan request is just ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. If anyone out here is a small business owner, if you ran your business that way, you'd be bankrupt. You can't do it, right? You can't tell all of your employees they may lose their jobs, but hey, we may take a loan later, so hold on, right? I mean, that's the equivalent of what we're talking about here, right? So I am pushing hard on that. As you heard, it did not get heard this week. And I mean, I lobbied the chair of the Appropriations Committee, which this is not an appropriations bill, but a bill can be heard at any committee. They were meeting. I tried to get it on that agenda, and I spoke to and formally requested of the speaker to have it heard on the floor yesterday. They both didn't get done. It wasn't from a lack of trying, I can tell you that. But I will say this, I'm going to keep trying on that. I am working across the aisle. As I mentioned last time I was here, there are members on the other side of the aisle that are having this exact same problem. So I want to make sure everyone is clear about that there are members on the other side of the aisle that are not happy about the way things are going right now. Now, there are parties in control. I have very frank conversations, and I can with these members. Some of them I call friends because we do get along that well and we work together that well. They're not happy. They're not happy with their administration and the way this is being handled. They want to do some things. One of them did, along with me, on 4161 yesterday. So Assemblyman Roy Fryman is one of the members I'm referring to. He was the prime sponsor on that bill. And we worked on it together to get it across the finish line. We'll continue to do things like that, hopefully in a very short period of time with the time that we hopefully have just been given back. with the extension of the budget date. You know, I don't know why the Department of Education is moving at the pace it's moving. You know, I heard our school monitor talk about the fact that we do have a new commissioner. That is true. I've spoken with him within the last 2 weeks, but I think I mentioned it last time. I really didn't get much, and I think that's been the consensus of every superintendent that I know who has spoken to the new commissioner as well. You know, if it's because he's the new guy, that's not a viable excuse. You know, it's an important role. The Department of Ed is an important entity within the administration, and we have some real issues right now. I have multiple districts within my legislative districts that's having this problem right now, and I could tell you many members of the Assembly stood up on behalf of their districts yesterday, particularly in Ocean County, that are also having these problems. So Toms River and Brook, for example, Lacey, Plumstead are all having similar issues right now. I'd say maybe one to the extent that we have here, maybe one. I mean, they all have a real problem on their hands, but Jackson's in a class by itself, unfortunately. So just know that I'm fighting for all of you. I'm fighting for you, and I'm fighting for your children on this as hard as I can. And I do want to remind everybody, and I want to be clear, the people up here did not cause this problem. If anyone's listening at home too, these people did not cause this problem. This was dropped on them. It was known for years. This started in 2018, and it got perpetually worse every year since, and it could have been fixed years ago, all right? This group has an impossible job in front of them, and we should be happy we have this group in place. But I want to make sure everyone's clear. The state caused this problem. This administration caused this problem. This funding formula came in under this current administration, could be fixed under this administration. They chose not to do it, all right? So this group is doing the best they can to do whatever they can for your school children. The state needs to fix this, though, all right? So we will fix the formula going forward, no doubt, but I recognize we need to do something really soon for this school district and school districts like you. So I'm happy to take any questions.
I have one.
Sure.
Do you think that the bill that was passed, I didn't write the letters down, that increased the tax levy with an optional to 9.9, is that for this year? And will, you know, obviously some districts, if they can go up that, can actually recoup and be in a good place for this year, depending on what their deficit was.
Yeah.
Would it be like every year will it solve their problem, or will they be back at the starting field?
No, it's good.
At the starting line, you know what I'm saying? Will this
Yeah.
discussion just like continue?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the bill is A4161, right? That's the one that passed yesterday. It has two components. One component I really like, which is to restore a portion of the funding that was cut for this upcoming school year, right? So you guys were expecting 800,000, you got 4.5 million, which again, if you're running your business, you'd be bankrupt if you had to operate under those conditions, right? You're getting 45% of that 4.5 million back. I really like that component of it, right? I don't like the idea that we have to raise property tax. I get that we may need to do that, or you may need to think about that. The idea that all of you should have to pay more property tax when you've already paid more than your fair share of income tax. I said last time in 2021, which is the most recent numbers we have available, all of you paid $68 million in income tax. We're getting back 23 million, right? Which already sounds low, right? 23 out of what you paid. It makes it even worse when you look at other school districts like Newark, who paid collectively only 44 million, and they're getting 1.25 billion. All right, so the fact that the solution in this piece of the bill is that, well, we should raise more property tax is, you know, it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. To answer your question, though, the bill says that you can now raise up to 9.9% above the 2% cap that you've been constrained on. Yeah, this year, right? It's only this year. It's a one-time exception. The only thing is it does bring you to the new level, meaning starting next year, the 2% cap is back in place, but you're at this level after the 9.9 increase, all right? So, and I do like that part, that at least the 2% cap is back in place. 2% cap is the only thing we actually have done well in the legislature that keeps our property tax somewhat in check. And I know all of you have raised to it every year like you had, but the problem is this formula has taken more away at a faster pace than you could ever raise with the 2% property tax cap. So anyway, it's available now as a tool. It will help, I'm sure. It will help your district or our district as well as many other districts. And it is a one-time exception for this year.
I went back and I listened to one of your talks when you were here, kind of explaining how we sent our taxes in.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it because to me it seems very corrupt. And how is it legal to double tax people like that?
Well, we're all double taxed. Well, let me be clear, we're more than double taxed, right? I mean, there's other taxes. Tolls are taxes in my mind, right? Gas tax, which just went up again. But in terms of the main taxes, income tax and property tax, we're all paying that, right? So if your annual budget's somewhere around $103 million for the school district, right? Your $23 million of it is coming from state aid, which is the portion of income tax that everybody out here is paid. The problem, the real issue here is that 7 years ago, we were getting double. So if let's say everything stayed the same, right, and it was $68 million in income tax that everybody here paid 7 years ago, you were getting 46 million of that 68, roughly 2/3, right? Now it's roughly 1/3. That's the gap, right? That's what the problem is right there. And that's this formula. And this formula, instead of being based on income, is based on property value, which the math now says that all of you are worth 2.5 times more than you actually are. That's what's so bad about this formula, is because property values have gone up in the state, that it's based on property, not the actual income. So when the property goes up, that must mean we're all worth a lot more, which makes no sense. And the income tax portion comes down. That's the way the formula is designed. Now, the specifics of the formula, as we talked about at the last meeting, nobody knows the specifics. Despite being sued, the state was sued, the districts, including Jackson, were part of that. They won. The judge also said that the lawyers' fees needed to be paid. None of that's happened. None of it. All right, that happened 2 years ago. All right, so we don't know the formula specifics, and the school districts that paid to get the formula on your behalf still haven't been paid back for their lawyer fees.
So the money that they decided to give back to the schools, whatever the 71 million, right?
Right.
Is that taken out of the line items in the governor's budget? And if that's the case, does that mean that the little extras, 800,000 here, 20 there, they decided to keep those items in, or is this additional tax funds?
I believe this is coming out of the general fund, or surplus is actually where it's coming out of. So there's a certain amount of funds that aren't allocated in the budget other than listed as surplus. So it's not line itemed as an expense, despite this budget having gone up $20 billion under this administration, right? So 7 years ago, the budget was roughly 32 billion. It's now 56 billion, right? But what we're talking about from that bill yesterday comes out of surplus. It's not coming. Not in this case. Now, I mentioned last week, or maybe I didn't, but I have a bill right now that would do exactly that. It would reallocate line items. Did I talk about the French Art Museum? No, I did, right? So, yeah, there's a French Art Museum project in Jersey City that has $58 million allocated to it. Again, obviously I'm a fan of the arts. I had 2 children up on the stage tonight. But I'm not a fan of spending $58 million on a French Art Museum in Jersey City when we have school districts suffering the way we do. And what I said was, ironically, the former Governor McGreevey, who's now said he wants to run for mayor of that town, has said he killed the project. So I spoke to the Assembly Budget Committee on behalf of the school district and offered it up. I said, go get the $58 million. Go get it. That's 1/4 of the problem solved right there. It would take about $200 million to solve this problem across the entire state right now, which is not chump change. It's taxpayer money, but relative to a $56 billion budget, it's nothing. It really isn't, right? And it's available in the surplus, which again, this could be addressed right now, right? The pain could stop right now if the administration wanted it to. So.
Just to be clear, this sounds a lot like redistribution of wealth Jackson is a blue-collar, hard-working town. We work hard to support our families. We put our kids to this school district to get a great education. We paid $68 million in 2021 in income tax. We're now getting $23 million back, and the rest of it is going to support other towns' school districts. That sounds a lot like socialism to me, Assemblyman.
I could see how you would interpret it that way. And, you know, the only way these other districts could be getting $1.25 billion in state aid on $44 million of income tax their own municipality is paying is for your income tax to be going somewhere else. It's the only way, right? I mean, where else would it come from? You know, I was challenged when I spoke at the Budget Committee by a member and another member of the Assembly who was on the committee, and saying, well, you know, don't you think those districts deserve a fair share? And it kind of annoyed me that I got the question, because I actually stated that in my comments, that of course I do, right? And I think we all do. We're talking about children here. It doesn't matter where they're at, right? So, yeah, of course I do. The problem is, in that particular district and in some others like it, throwing money at those districts has not solved the problem. I'm not making it up. Their own numbers just came out in the last quarter, right? 90% of third graders can't read a third grade level. 90%. So throwing money, and you threw $100 million at it this year, because their budget, their state aid went up $100 million. It did last year too, $100 million. So in the last 2 years, $200 million of your income tax went to one school district, right? And their performance is horrible. And I don't want to see that. I certainly want to see that problem solved, but that problem needs to be addressed in some other way. It's not by throwing our money at that problem, while meanwhile you're here tonight, and all of you are here tonight dealing with the repercussions of it.
Did anybody ask the person who said that to you, like, you know, they've been throwing money at different school districts forever, right? And we know that it doesn't always work like you just explained. So all they're doing in the process is bringing down good school districts. Is that when the state's going to turn around and go, look, we're all even, it worked, by bringing down the good ones? Like, did anyone ask them that? Because with that reasoning, that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I responded to them in kind, I guess is the way I would describe it. I didn't appreciate the question, because it was, you know, it was already asked and answered in my own testimony. I stated it clearly that I wanted to see that district do better, right? And then I pointed out the stats, to which I got crickets, right? And I don't think maybe you thought I knew the numbers, right? But once I started citing the same numbers I just said to all of you, it was just like dead silent, right? I mean, how do you respond to a district that's paying $44 million and getting $1.25 billion, and the rest of us are paying more and getting less? I mean, how do you respond to that in any way, right? Especially, it's so egregiously off. It's not like it's a little bit. I mean, it's a lot, right? So, yeah, so I responded to it, and I think I made my point. It's on video, you know, so, you know, he can watch it over and over again if he needs to. But, yeah, you know, it's, again, like I said, I don't, while I'm probably sounding a little political tonight, I don't tend to. I try not to, and like I said, I really do try to work across the aisle, and I'm going to continue to do that, right? Every so often, I'm going to make my point about the administration and the fact that they could have fixed this problem years ago, all right? But I am going to continue to work with my colleagues to try to get something done for all of you.
Thank you, Assemblyman.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on agenda items only? We will have a public forum where anyone can discuss and talk about anything a little bit later, but anything on agenda item. Seeing no one come forward, I need a motion to close public forum.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to move finance.
Motion.
Discussion. Roll call.
Ms. Gardella,
Yes.
Mr. McCarron,
Yes.
Dr. Osmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. Motion to move facilities.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella,
Yes.
Mr. McCarron,
Yes.
Dr. Osmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera, Mrs. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. Motion to move programs.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella,
Yes.
Mr. McCarron,
Yes.
Dr. Osmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. Motion to move students.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella,
Yes.
Mr. McCarron,
Yes.
Dr. Osmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. Motion to move personnel.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella,
Abstain from 15A2 and also 7A1, 653, and 654. Yes to everything else.
Mr. McCarron,
Yes.
Dr. Osmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. I need a motion to open public forum on any topic pertaining to the Board of Education.
Motion. Second.
Please sign in and state your name and whether or not you are a Jackson resident. Each person is allowed a maximum of 5 minutes to speak. No person may speak more than once on the topic until all others have been heard.
My name is Nechama Goldstein. I am a Jackson resident. I send my kids to private school, and I recently got a notice from the Jackson Board of Ed and from my children's school that the transportation is now being provided by the LSTA. It's being taken over. I had to go onto the LSTA's website to register my children for transportation, and one of the things is that they're charging a $80 fee for administrative purposes. I called up the LSTA to ask them about this fee, because as far as I know, you're not allowed to charge a fee unless we decide that we want to. And even though $80 is very reasonable for transportation, I think it should be left to the parents to decide if they want to pay $80 per child. They told me that it was mandatory, and I said, well, what if I don't want to pay $80? What if I don't pay $80? What are you going to do? And they said that if I do not pay the $80 fee, I will be put on a bus with a bus stop so far away from my house. Basically, probably the bus stop they gave me was probably 8 miles away from my house. I said, I don't think that's really fair. I don't even know if that's legal. And they said that Jackson lets you make a stop wherever you want. They can make a stop as far away from your house as they feel it's okay. So I wanted to know, first of all, is the $80 fee legal? Is the putting a bus stop so far away from my house legal? I mean, if I'm getting busing because I'm 2 miles away from the school, I would assume that making me drive so far away, that's like really no point. So that was just my two concerns, and thank you.
Thank you for that question. I would turn this over to our business administrator, Mr. Baginski. He could provide you with a response.
So one of the things where I've talked to the LSTA about this, because another parent had raised this concern, so it is not part of the contract for the LSTA to charge any fee, and I made that clear with them. They did say that some of the schools themselves have decided to have a fee in order to try to increase the rate at which they would go out to bid for buses, so that would increase the likelihood of a bus being available for that particular school. But that fee is not to be assessed through the LSTA via the Jackson School District, because we confirmed that that is not part of the contract.
It's on their, when I fill out the portal, it's one of the required fields. It's that you have to pay an $80 fee. You can't go past it unless you sign that you will pay it and give your credit card number. And they say without filling out this form, you will not get transportation or aid in lieu.
So one of the things, so you leave your number there, or leave your phone number with Ms. Barber, and I'll be sure to get back to you tomorrow. I will contact the LSTA myself tomorrow, and I will make sure that you get a proper response from them and also from me.
And about the bus stops?
So when they're going to bid out for the buses, the LSTA is creating the routes based on the students in the schools. They try to make the routes as appealable as possible to possible contractors to improve the likelihood of getting a route. When they design those routes, there is no consultation with us about where those routes specifically are. They do use cluster stops because they know what contractors are interested in, and they know what a contractor will or will not take, so they try to make them as appealable as possible. So I would contact them specifically about a bus stop if you feel like it's too far from your home or whatever else, to see if they can make an adjustment, or the contractor can make an adjustment.
Right, but I want to know, how far away can they give me a stop? Like, at a certain point, it's not worth having busing if I have to travel so far away. Like, I'm not going to get the aid in lieu, and I have to travel 5 miles to my stop. That's a little bit like, that's a little bit, counterproductive.
Yeah, so I wouldn't expect the bus stop to be further away than the 2 miles. And if that's the case, then that's something else I should talk to the LSTA about.
Right, no, I believe cluster stops are fine. I live in Hampshire Hills. If they wanted to make it at the entrance of Hampshire Hills, I would hear that. But if they're going to give me a stop in, on Cross Street, that's not really going to help me much.
Sure, yeah, that's another issue I will take up with the LSTA when I
Okay.
contact them tomorrow.
Okay, thank
So
you.
make sure you leave your information
Yeah, I
and
left
contact
it on.
information.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Hello, my name is Deb Jones. I am a Jackson resident. Ms. Morris, I stood here last week and I asked you that when you're making a decision, even when it's hard to make the right decision, and when I see the update and that you did suggest that we should get the funding for this year, I would like to say thank you, because it could not have been easy. You were not up against an easy room last week, but you did what we needed you to do for that. But as far as the rest of the issue, we may never reach a full solution, but it's never going to absolve us from trying. So I just ask you to just keep working and keep trying, because our students and our faculty are worth more than what the state should be giving us to help us with our budget, but we need at least that. And I would just like to close out with Maya Angelou. We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. And this is not something that Jackson can be defeated with. Our kids are too important and our future's too important. But I do want to thank you for what you have done so far. And I would like to thank all of you for not accepting no and for not accepting defeat, because you guys are on an uphill battle, but the town needs to get behind you. And even if we're shoving you up that hill, we have to do it. So thank you.
Anyone else? Any topic pertaining to the Board of Education? All right, seeing no one come forward, I need a motion to close public forum.
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. At this time, we'll have our board comments, starting with Mr. McCarron.
I appreciate that last comment. It is an uphill battle, and it is one that I know everybody on the board's willing to fight for. So just asking everybody to continue their calls, continue their emails, and let's see where this all goes. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out tonight. I agree with Mrs. McCarron of keep sending letters, keep advocating. That's really all we could do at this point. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for coming out and viewing us on live stream. Thank you, Mr. Sawicki, for your input and updates. And thank you for the student board reps, and best of luck on your endeavor. And everyone, please continue to support and advocate for our district. And everyone have a great and safe night.
Thank you for everybody coming out. I'm looking forward to the end of the school year and all the events. It was super fun last year, and I'm sure it will be fun again. I also want to thank Deb for her comments. It gives a new renewed sense to go out and start ruffling feathers again, so I appreciate that. I think we needed it up here. And I hope everybody has a good night, and hopefully we see 40 people in the audience more often. It's a big room, but if we were in a small space, it would feel great for all your support, and I appreciate it. Have a great night.
I too just want to thank everyone. I want to thank the high school reps. I know they already left. It was their last meeting tonight, so it's always sad to see them go, but it's great to watch them all year and as they grow doing that. And having the jazz band today, I think, was fabulous. It was a fun, lighthearted thing, and it certainly reminds us of the things that we don't want to lose in this district. So again, just piggybacking on everybody else, keep writing, keep reaching out to your legislator. We have our advocacy group. I want to thank Mrs. Gardella and Mrs. Baracus, who is not here. They've spoken to 15 legislators over the last couple of months, right? So, I mean, that's huge. So they're working hard, and we have Mr. Sawicki in our corner, and everyone else up here is working. So just continue for the fight. And and the best to the seniors. They have a month left. I have a senior, so it's going to be a rough month. But all right, everyone have a good night.
The Department of Education, Governor Murphy, and his S2 funding formula has failed the Jackson School District. I urge us all to remember that equitable funding isn't just a matter of numbers on a balance sheet. It's about investing in the future of every student, regardless of their zip code. We must work together to advocate for a fair and just school funding formula that ensures every child has the resources they need to succeed. And we must never give in, we must never give up. Never, 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 like Winston Churchill said some time ago. So thank you and have a good night. I need a motion to adjourn by acclamation.